what you hinted at is that there is a MAGA civil war brewing, because Trump is cooked. If he, if his term in office isn't cooked, his brain is cooked. The man's got pudding between the ears at this point. So we're seeing in real time his coalition, the people in it are angling to steer the ship once the captain finally keels over. So recently we've seen division within the MAGA ranks over a young streamer named Nick Fuentes. I don't know if you folks are familiar with this guy, but he is a 27-year-old who broadcasts out of his suburban Chicago home. Was recently, this kid is notorious for being a neo-Nazi, like unrepentant, is a white supremacist, Christian nationalist, anti-Semite. And that is increasingly becoming the direction of a large part of the party. I've seen that 30 to 40% of young staffers in Washington are followers of Fuentes, something that's called Groypers, is the name of that movement. And recently, this MAGA civil war burst out into the open when Fuentes was platformed by Tucker Carlson. And Carlson has been pinch hitting on these Turning Point USA rallies. He was here in Bloomington not long ago, pinch hitting for the late Charlie Kirk at the, this college tour. And, Carlson has been in media for a long time. He's very much regarded as sort of fringe, but I mean, the man was on Fox News #1 rated cable host for many years. So, a very important figure on the right. Had this Fuentes on for a softball interview. Very, very many folks in MAGA circles, particularly those who have an affinity for Israel, like Ben Shapiro, like Mark Levin. These guys are incensed that Carlson is inviting the little Nazi Fuentes in under the tent. And so they are none too pleased about it. So we have this Groyper faction of the party. We also have Marjorie Taylor Greene angling for a more prominent role. Maybe she is going to be the queen of MAGA going forward. Like we said earlier, she was party to this discharge petition, right? She has called out Trump regarding the Epstein handling. And this week, Trump disavowed Marjorie Taylor Greene in a long Truth Social screed. So there is another faction within the party. We see Vance obviously angling for something called, I want to point people to this week's episode of the Straight White American Jesus podcast. Very good. The folks over there at Access Mundi Media, Brad Onishi, they talk about something called civilizational nationalism. This movement kind of describes the camp that Vance and Kevin Roberts and the Heritage Foundation fall into. So we're seeing camps form within the MAGA brand. We also saw pushback this week in an interview Trump did with Fox News' Laura Ingraham. He floated the idea of 50-year mortgages, and folks in MAGA were incensed by that. Again, pushing back against Trump more than we've seen recently. And also, he in the same interview, he talked about the need for Americans to keep using H-1B visas to hire foreign workers. And this is all the far right has been talking about on Twitter all week, even Indiana Twitter, like the H-1B visas. We've got guys posing as journalists online, digging up like every H-1B worker in Indiana, and talking about needing to hire what they call heritage Americans for these jobs. Meanwhile, Trump's like, no, legitimately, we don't have the talent in the country for some of these jobs. And pains me to say on this one, Donald Trump is right. And yeah, the racist faction doesn't like that. So, D, let me ask, MAGA Civil War, who's in charge of this thing?
Well, I'm afraid nobody is in charge. Um, I think it's pretty apparent in the big picture that uh, Trump has lost his handle on what's going on. I think it's probably in large part due to Epstein and the shutdown uh, uh, sort of things. It's become apparent to many of the base, I think, that he doesn't give a flying damn about any of them. Um, but so yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious. But here's what I worry about is JD Vance. If he would come in because Trump drops dead, he won't get 25th Amendment out. Nobody's got that nerve. But if anything happens to him, I've heard people say, "Oh, he's going to resign." No, he's not. Narcissists don't quit. Um, he Then we have JD Vance, who is fully funded by Peter Thiel and
Yes.
the Elon Musks of the world that want to take things over and look at people even more as widgets and less as people, items to be shuffled around as they need. But say even that doesn't work. Say for some reason JD Vance also gets pushed out. Then we're looking at Mike Johnson as president of the United
Oh
States
my.
of America. Okay. Next would be John Thune, who probably is the best of everybody I just named.
I was gonna say of these options, Thune is probably the least offensive, though he
Right.
does suck out loud. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's just as he's got nothing that they all don't have either. But then you go in order of succession in the cabinet as to the ones that were created, and so I think you start with. Uh, I know what the second and third one are. The Secretary of State. So that would be Marco Rubio, would be president. If we then went to Secretary of the Treasury, which is next, that would be who? Scott Bessent. Oh, goody. And then if we went to Secretary of Defense, you'd have Pete Hegseth or Kegsbreath, whatever, in charge of the country. So um, that scares me worse than about anything else is looking at the line of succession if indeed he does go. The good news, if they succeed in pulling, if somehow we pull Epstein out and it becomes obvious that Trump is in 2300 emails, he's mentioned 1600 plus times, the most of anybody else except Epstein. If indeed it happens and he gets pulled back, well, I think then you'll start seeing some Republicans abandon ship and have the nerve to stand up against him. But again, it's like the Epstein vote. Only when there's some cover for them will they do that.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, what do you think? So, now listen, D. I don't think we're Trump's going to resign or get thrown out of there, or we'll have to worry about the line of succession or anything. But just in terms of like the MAGA movement and the direction of the Republican Party, the direction of the right wing in this country. I mean, are the Groypers, are the Fuenteses, are the neo Nazis the direction this thing is going, or are the neocons like the Rubios, like maybe your John Thune, like your Ben Shapiro, are those folks making a comeback? What do you think?
I think that they've been given permission to be bad, and so therefore they are. But I think that there are more of us than there are them, and that's one reason why we have to hang together, or we will most assuredly hang separately. We have to stand up with. That's where party comes in, can be valuable. No, party is not everything, but party is important, and we have to hang together and get these people back in the shadows where they belong so that we can have governance and a country again. They're not doing anything even closely related to governance. All they're doing is destroying and stealing and cheating and taking whatever they can to stuff their pockets while they have a chance.
Jennifer, who do you cheer for? Who do you cheer for there in a fight between horrible people and horrible factions? Do you hope for like the simultaneous knockout? Oh, hold on there.
You're muted.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to backtrack first for a second. When you started to ask me something, I want to say something about Trump. I feel like we've already seen this, that his health is going to continue to deteriorate. I don't care how much you pretend that things can't bother you. On some level, there is just so much stuff out there that even though the man has no conscience, you can already see some of the things with his house. So, but as far as who I want to win out of the worst of the worst, I know that there are Republicans out there, or a lot that aren't even in office anymore, that do care about this country. And we need some of those people back. We need some of those people ones that are waking up. People can be fooled. And many, many people have been fooled by Trump. And there are people that are speaking out. So, it doesn't really matter what we wish, they're going to fight it out within their party, the extreme people there. But we just need to get back to some kind of government where all of us are putting the American people first. That's who I'm voting for right there. It is the American people to be the winners out of all this bullshit.
100%. Tabitha, what do you think? Is the MAGA coalition crumbling? And number one, I think that's a good thing, right? But what do you see, blooming as it crumbles? What fills that void?
I think we need to be really cautious because with things like racism and bigotry, we know they have deep roots, and this isn't something that's just going to go away. Clearly, I think what I observed from a lot of this was I thought that a lot of this bad activity was farther below the surface than it really was. And if anything, this just showed me that a lot of these bad and ill-intentioned type of things were just bubbling slightly under the surface. So I think that we should be focusing our energy on things like helping our community organization, but most of all the young people. So these gripers, for example, I'm paying close attention to that because I have a nephew about that age. And I think my nephew is a kind human, but it brings to light some things that maybe we need to pay more attention to. Like we need to pay more attention to what our youngsters have access to. And if there is something like that we can't limit their access, we need to give an alternative. So we need, like those of us that care, need to be like literally physically getting out there with these kids to show them what goodness, humility, and like community connection is really about. And if we don't do those type of things, we are creating a vacuum for those that will fill it. And I think that's what we're seeing, especially with the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and people like that. The Democratic Party is failing in some of those areas. I think that's part of why we failed in the previous election. We created a vacuum for all of these people that felt that they weren't being represented. And then there were people that were willing to take up that mantle that were more extreme and had hidden agendas that I think most people don't agree with, but they weren't aware of. And they're giving little bits here and there. Obviously, the Epstein stuff, that's a massive wave, right? But for how long? And that's why I think it's important that we just keep, pushing the pedal to the metal, if you will, those of us that are aware and are paying attention, to just bring back that community spirit of like educating people, being present, providing an alternative for a lot of these really heinous things. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a long road because these people on the other side that were building all of this nasty, horrible crap, they've been at it for 40 or 50 years. So we need to really think about, our commitment to our communities and like how much we're willing to invest in everyone to really turn this tide, because it's going to take all of us.
You're right. And I'm glad you mentioned the effect that like this manosphere and folks like Fuentes have on young men. And I think I have the solution. I'm gonna tie this back into the shutdown and the airlines that prop up those 8 senators. Here's it. Boys love trains, right? Listen, I'm going to be 47 years old next year, and I am still a 5-year-old boy at heart, and I love choo-choos, and we need high-speed rail. The young men in this country, I think, are like me. We're all 4-year-old boys in there somewhere, and we all love choo-choo trains. And if we gave the next generation of this country like a big national infrastructure project like building nationwide high-speed rail, that would give our young men purpose. Something that folks like Nick Fuentes tap into now is that lack of purpose. That would be a big unifying project. But unfortunately, folks like the airlines would never, ever let us build high-speed rail in this country. They've been trying really hard to keep it from getting done forever. So listen, I think what I'm trying to say is it's the airlines' fault that young men are choosing fascism. So let's put an end to that.